Hola, chicas, and welcome to this episode of the Everyday Jefa. I am your host, Bessy Martinez, and I'm so excited that you are joining us, whether you're watching us on our YouTube channel. So make sure you click that link to subscribe or follow us, and make sure that you share with your other Jefa amigas and hermanas in community about this platform. The Everyday Jefa and Company is multimedia agency where we are here just to spotlight other jefas, other women, Latina women specifically, out there making changes in the world and in their communities. And the Everyday Jefa podcast is no shy to any of those things that I just listed. Love to be able to bring guests. So if you know somebody or you yourself would like to be able to join as a guest here on this podcast, make sure that you send us a message so that we can send you the link to sign up. But I always get excited because one of the things I love about this podcast is that just like everybody else, I sometimes get to know, my viewers and my audience, and also the people that I bring on here, my guests. We're sometimes even learning and getting to know each other and meeting for the very first time, just like the guest that I have on today. Social media has a beautiful way of connecting us. Thank goodness. That's expanded more than just a telephone and a TV these days. But sometimes you just feel like you're just already family without actually getting to know them. Sometimes they become, your chosen family as well. And so this particular guest that we have on today is along that line too. Met her on social media through mutual acquaintances, and just kind of, I think, been watching each other, I would say, and rooting each other on through social media, which I think is only a blimp into our lives, but nonetheless, it does give us an idea of what kind of people are in our circles. And so I'm extremely grateful and I'm extremely blessed to be able to have guests like today's join us. And so, yeah, make sure that you watch us or listen to us on any of your favorite podcast platforms, and of course, YouTube. All of our episodes land on Tuesdays and on YouTube on Wednesdays. But we're going to go ahead and get started today because I'm pretty sure y'all want to hear from this guest more than from me today. So, Wendy, welcome to the Everyday Jefa podcast. I am so glad that you joining us today and said yes to, being a guest. Please tell our viewers, our audience, and our other jefas exactly who you are and what you do. And again, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me on the Everyday Jefa. I'm excited to be here and looking forward to our conversation today. I am a transformational life and business coach, and I am 100% a stand for Latinas getting out of our own way, trusting ourselves, and doing the thing that we really want to do in our lives and in the world, right? So I loved watching you on social media. And yes, there's been a couple of connections through that where I was like, oh, she's doing what I'm doing here in LA in Austin and in Texas. And also what I really felt from you was the commitment to inspiring, motivating, and leading the way for Latinas, right? Which is exactly what my life is about. It's very much centered around growing our own ability to trust ourselves. So that's what I do as transformational work. I help Latinas learn to find their own inner voice, listen to that inner voice, and then go out and take consistent action on that so that they can actually create the lives that they love, right? The businesses that they love. I've been a transformational coach for over 18 years now. So I started in the game before there was Facebook, before there was, this big social media, when people were just really networking word of mouth, right? Like I started coaching one Latina and that became two and that became three. But most of my career, I've been coaching general life and business coaching. I did some career coaching. I also have a specialty around ADHD coaching because I was diagnosed with ADHD in my 20s. And I have a specialty around sales or enrollment coaching. So I do that also. And for most of my career, I worked with different, what I call gurus. Like I worked for Tony Robbins for a little while. I coached in all these other rooms and for all these other people. And I learned a lot being behind the scenes. And it wasn't until 2018 that I got really clear about, oh, I really want to work with my fellow Latinas. They're the ones who really need this information that I keep sharing with executives. Or, I found myself walking into rooms where there was nobody that looked like me as a coach, right? And I was like, wait, something feels off. And then I always say that it felt like my ancestors started talking to me more consistently. And the whisper got louder and louder and louder. And, and I had a successful career. I could have just kept doing executive coaching and worked with white men forever.
Yeah.
But something was off. Something was telling me these are not the people that really need your voice, Wendy, or need the tools that you're sharing in the world. So
Mhm.
I started moving into how can I get these, almost elite tools, right? Because coaching
Yeah.
is usually an elite profession. It's for people who are executive CEOs, executive directors, people who are in these higher management positions and leadership positions. It's not available to the average Latina. So for me, I really got committed to how can I make these tools available to the average Latina in a way that is accessible. And so they can start actually implementing it and using it in their life. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and that's real. Thank you so much for kind of walking us through that because I think sometimes we sometimes actually confuse mentorship with coaching.
Ah,
I
yes.
and then so unless you're in the field or you've already experienced that type of environment or accessibility, oftentimes it's so easy to merge, So really quickly, really briefly, in your opinion, what do you think is the difference between coaching and mentoring?
Yeah. Coaching is opening up possibilities where you're holding space for someone who already has all the answers inside of them. So you're asking powerful questions that then elicits their own ability to go inward, find their inner genius, and connect with that version of themselves. In coaching, in transformational coaching, we believe that you already have the answers. You actually don't need an expert outside of you. You know what you need to do, what's best for you, what your heart is telling you in terms of making decisions, right? That's something that I work with a lot of clients on, making decisions. And what we do as coaches is we hold space for you to be able to move into that space of connection. Now, that requires, as a coach, that you have some expertise on how to guide somebody through that process because whew, growth requires a lot of uncomfortableness. Growth is in the uncomfortable. So, how do you hold space for
Mhm.
someone that's going to go through a process that can feel really uncomfortable and not get too pushed or not get scared out of it so that they don't actually step into their next level, right? That's coaching. Mentorship, I call it mentorship slash consulting because consulting can feel very similar to mentorship in that mentorship has more to do with, okay, here are the strategies that I have used that have worked for me. Let me share with you the strategies. Or here is what I see as possible and the resources that I can bring in for you to support you. So mentorship is more of a I am leading you, whereas coaching is more of a you are leading you. I'm creating the environment for you to be able to do that and
Yeah.
actually reach your goals. Yeah, that's the distinction between the 2.
Yeah, because I think even for myself, after a while, after you've put a lot of tools and got them in under your belt, right? People tend to look at you and go, okay, well, I see your visibility. I see what you're doing. I would love to learn more. Would you mind mentoring me? And then there's those that are like, hey, I want to really dive into more of a intimate one-on-one on how you've reached what you've reached. And at that point, it becomes coaching and incubator. But I will be the first to tell you, I didn't learn a lot of those things. For me, it was just I build, and therefore that's how it in my mind that was it. Never thinking that even for myself, the possibility to be able to change the environment would be, sufficed under a certain title per se. So I was reading your bio when you applied for to be a guest here, and you talked about something that kind of caught my eye. Because I guess in a way some of us have thought it. I could say that I don't think I really ever thought of that perspective, but, like, after reading it on your bio, I kind of sat down, was like, "Okay, alright, I think I probably fell under that type of thing too," but you said you went from looking good on paper to actually loving life, and I
Yeah.
don't think we really truly think about what that really means. So, what did your life look like before that shift change?
Yeah, yeah. Woo! Yes. So in my 20s, well, first, I'm a daughter of Guatemalan immigrants. My parents came here to the United States in the 1970s from Guatemala, fleeing what was starting to be a political war, right?
Mm.
And I was born here in 1976. So I'm going to be 50 this year. I say that really proud because, I turn around and I'm like, Dios
Yes.
mío, I'm going to be 50 this year. But yes, I was born in 1976 and here in the United States and raised by parents that were very proud of being from Guatemala, specifically my dad. So my dad would always tell me, you're born to a great people. You come from the descendants of Mayans. Your descendants were, astrologers, mathematicians, they were builders, they were geniuses. That's what's in your blood. What are you going to do with your life?
No pressure.
Right, exactly, exactly. So I very much, I say I very much got brainwashed into believing in myself. But my parents, like many immigrant parents, really valued stability and safety. And so the way to get ahead in this country is you go to school, you get good grades, you get a master's degree, you get a good job, right? So I did all that. I went to UCLA, got my undergrad, got my graduate degree in urban planning, started working in a nonprofit doing social policy planning. And I always knew I wanted to make an impact with the Latino community, right? Because that's where I was coming from. But driving to work every day, this is back in the day when we used to drive to work. I know everybody works from home now, but back in the day, driving to work every day, it felt like I was just sinking every day. So on paper, I had this degree from this great university. I had this dream job. I had a good salary, right? To be, 24, 25 and be making close to six figures was like, whoa. I had health insurance, which for my mom was a big freaking deal to have health insurance. I remember she was like, mija, pero la aseguranza, tienes aseguranza, right? So on paper, it looked like I had this dream life, but inside I was really struggling. I had been dealing with depression on and off since my teenage years and not always like because of a breakup or something, just depression that I would go into these ruts every like couple of months or so, right? I also had anxiety where I would like bite my nails. I would get really nervous before I stepped into a room, like with somebody of importance, for example. And then I also was diagnosed with ADHD in my 20s. So I had racing thoughts. I was always late. I was late to everything. I remember I even lost friendships because I was always late to everything. And I lost jobs too because I was always late. And all that combination of all of that made me feel like I'm never going to be able to get ahead. Like I don't understand, but I'm doing everything that my mom and dad have told me I need to do to feel really happy. And yet I still don't fit in. So I don't understand what this
Mhm.
happiness thing is, or how do I feel good in my own body and with my own soul and spirit. And there's something else that keeps coming up, right? That this is not the plan. I didn't feel like I was really making an impact. And I know there's a lot of people listening to this that are probably working in nonprofits and you went into it because of a passion or a mission, and you might feel like you're 5 steps removed from that mission or that vision, right? It feels like you're doing
Yeah.
a lot of admin work or something else versus actually making an impact. So I went on a journey really to find the answers for myself so that I could come to a place of peace of mind, of finding real joy in my day to day and figuring out if this is not the path, then what is the path? Because I
Yeah.
have everything. And in that process is how I found transformational work. And I did a lot of different things. I tried therapy, I tried medication, I was on Prozac for a year. I tried lots of different things in my 20s. And the thing that worked for me, I think because it's action oriented also, is coaching, and specifically transformational coaching, which has to do with identity work, has to do with who you're being. I call it being
Yeah.
work, right? Yeah. That's what really shifted it for me. And then I realized, oh crap, this stuff on paper doesn't even matter. No importa. I create my own happiness, my own joy, my own safety from what's happening internally in me, my thoughts, my feelings, my beliefs about myself. That's what matters the most. And then from there, I can go out in the world and I can create whatever I want to create, a job, a promotion, more money, right? Whatever outside. But even these outside things, like I tell people, I now live in my dream home that I bought 3 years ago, which I love, but I'm also aware that my dream home could go away in a
Yeah.
year or two. And no importa. It doesn't really matter. What matters most is my relationship with myself. And from that place, I can create more. And also the stuff we create outside of ourselves becomes less important. That's the reality
Yeah.
that happens. Yeah.
And it takes a lot of growth. I think I want to say I read something today that said that that the true I don't know if it was the word award, but the true for lack of words, I'm going to use the word success because but therefore success is still defined differently amongst all of us. But again, because I can't think of another word right now off the top of my head, but it was something along the lines like the true way for you to know that you've, and I say this in air quotes, made it is when you've grown. When you've grown, but not just once, but multiple times within just one setting of growth. Because ultimately, that's the one thing nobody can take away from you is you. And that just only happens through evolution of growth. And that happens through sometimes most of the time pain.
Yeah.
But we seem to think, even before social media came around, that the true way to say that you've made it and that it's you are living the life, the dream life, or for us, for many of us, the American dream is through what we would see on TV or what we would see in the newspapers or what we would see in commercials, magazines, those types of things. But then now even the whole landscape has shifted, right? With heavily on social media on what that looks like. But being able to acknowledge, like you did, that this is not, I mean, this is great, but this is something inside me that says that this is not fully the whole picture. Was there like a moment that kind of gave you that aha or that you turned around and said, yeah, nope, something's got to change now.
Yeah, I remember driving on the 405 freeway, which is a freeway out here in LA that gets super packed with traffic. I mean, it's like an hour to
Yep.
get,
Yep.
do you know the 405? It's like
Yes.
famous nationally.
I
Yeah.
hate it.
Yes, yes. So I remember the moment of driving on the 405 to work at like 7 a.m. to try to make it to an 8 a.m. meeting and just crying in the car. Like I was driving and then all of a sudden I just started to bawl and cry.
Mm,
And I was like, but what's wrong? I don't understand because there wasn't anything directly in front of me that was like, this is a big problem, right? Things just
yeah.
didn't feel aligned.
Yeah.
I didn't feel purposeful. I didn't feel like I was making a real impact. I knew the day was probably going to go the same way the day before had gone. And I was watching all these women who were above me or ahead of me, these directors and the executive director and all that were all Latinas. And they all seemed really stressed out.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Do I want that life? No." And I had also, like, done a little bout in politics, like, I had dated a few politicians and, spent some time working on some campaigns, and I had observed that world too, and I was like, "Do I want that life? No." So I had gone out and looked at, like, where are the examples of women who seem really happy? And also, like, have a family. I knew I wanted to have kids, so I'm a mom now of 3. I have twins that are 11 years old now and a 14-year-old, so I have a teenager also. Amazing, amazing family, amazing kids. I absolutely adore my kids. And I knew I wanted to have kids even in my mid-20s, and I was future casting into, like, my future of how will I ever really get to see my kids? These work hours are crazy. I was at events at night and board meetings and, there were people that were really committed to the cause of moving the Latino movement forward, but seemed exhausted everywhere that I looked. People were exhausted, stressed. There weren't examples for me of what I wanted until I found transformational work and I found people that were practicing this other work and found entrepreneurship because that was another thing. I didn't come from a family of people who were business owners.
Yeah.
I came from a family of people who my dad was an accountant in Guatemala. My mom was a secretary. They had kind of 9 to 5 jobs. So when I quit my good paying, insurance job, my mom was like, "Estás loca? What? You're going to leave your job to go do this thing?" And the thing with coaching is people don't even understand what it is. Pero
Yeah.
eres psicóloga o eres terapista? Like, they're like, "Are you going back to school to get a PhD?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just going to start doing it." And they still don't understand what I do to this day. They're kind of like, no sé, hace algo de coaching, hace llamadas, pero no sé. They don't understand what it is. But now that they see, quote unquote, the success, right? Now they're like, oh, it's a real thing. Like she has a business. Okay. Yeah. That's a part of my story also. So I did have a moment on the 405 crying where I was like, that's it. I got to figure something else out. And that's when I started the journey. And the journey took a couple of years. I also want to tell people it wasn't like I quit that day and then the next day I became a coach. It wasn't like that. It was, I started the journey of trying to find my own happiness. So I took trainings, I worked with coaches, I started to implement the work. It still took about 3 years to completely leave my career behind and move into coaching full time. So it was a process. And even those first 10 years, there were times where I took a lot of consulting work and I worked for other people to subsidize my coaching practice, right? And, ups and downs. I was the director of coaching for a couple of companies at times where I would work for them for a year and train their coaches. So I moved in and out of a lot of spaces, all within the world of like professional personal development, all similar work. But it wasn't until really 2019 and then 2020 when the pandemic hit that I was like 100% committed to working with Latinas specifically and growing that business. Yeah.
And you've managed to grow that business into $1 million business. I mean, that is no easy task whatsoever. And here's the thing is the caveat of that is that it should not be this hard either to build $1 million business.
Yeah.
And for a lot of us, specifically the Jefas out there, they still feel like that is unattainable. Whether it be because they're not surrounded by the right group of people, or they just feel like they can't seem to quite find those resources to get them to even envision that being part of their highest self or their future plan. So can you kind of like walk us through what were the first few things that you started to do that landed you into that 1 million business space?
Yeah. First thing I started to do was surround myself with millionaires, like bring them into my inner circle. Yeah. One, I started to realize that there were already millionaires in my circle. They just weren't saying it out loud. They weren't
Yeah.
talking about it. Yeah. Because, what is the definition of a millionaire? It's really somebody that can sell all their assets tomorrow and have over $1 million in cash, right? And if we look at our assets, people who own homes, people who own businesses, right? Um, Stocks, your 401k. I mean, there were people around me that had over $1 million in their 401k, but didn't consider themselves millionaires. So we had to have those conversations also about like, let's start talking about money. that part, right? Let's actually talk about money. And this is actually why I talk about being a millionaire. One, I'm a millionaire in California, which is not a big deal because California is a freaking expensive city to live. It's an expensive state, excuse me, to live in, right? Um, but I also wanted to be an example for people because I would walk into rooms and I would ask, like when I would do speaking engagements, okay, how many people in the audience of Latinas do you know a millionaire? And very few hands would raise. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm a millionaire. So now you know a millionaire. Also outing the fact that as a millionaire, I look like you. I talk like you. I drive in Honda van because when I had the twins, we bought a van because we needed, we had 3 kids and 3 in car seats and the craziness of having a big family. So I don't look any different than the average person out in the world. But how I actually became a millionaire, a couple of things. One, identity work, who I'm being, right? I started to believe that $1 million was 100% possible, 100%, that it was a hop and a skip away. It was just something I was going to grab that was like right here, right here. And if you're watching this, I'm putting my hand next to the right side of my head, which means it's attainable. It's like something you can just grab, right? Yeah. I started to surround myself with other millionaires and I started to see how they think, and they do think differently. If you're listening to this, you need to become friends with a millionaire. Find someone, get invited to some event, go to a dinner, or just go sit at happy hour at one of the most expensive hotels in your city. Show up at a hotel in your city that's very expensive, like the Ritz-Carlton, find a bar, sit there for a while, get one drink, start talking to people. You will make a friend that is probably a millionaire if you hang out, in some of those spaces. And in talking to other millionaires, I started to realize, oh, it's just a numbers game. It's not complicated. Once you have the being part, which is the hardest part, the being part is like your internal belief shift, right? And this is the work that I do with my clients. It's identity shifts. into, oh, yes, I can, 100%. And for us as Latinas, it's also tied to our ancestral lineage, right? So the
Mhm.
more we dig into what our ancestors have gone through and how they have survived. I mean, if I tap into my Mayan ancestors, there's still Mayans alive today in Guatemala, wearing
Mhm.
pil, wearing their traditional clothing, speaking Quiche, right? They still exist now, even though conquerors have tried to execute them for generations after generations after generations. So if I compare me trying to become a millionaire to them surviving everything that they've survived, becoming a millionaire feels really easy. And that's what happens to most of us when we start to really connect to the power, the courage, the strength in our ancestral lineage, right? Yeah. So that work also supported me. And then actually taking action. You have to take action consistently. This is the thing, guys. That was the big shift for me in becoming a millionaire. It wasn't just 1 month of really great results, although I did have 1 month where I made over $100,000 in 1 month. I'll never forget. I was like, this is blowing my own freaking mind. I couldn't even believe it myself. But I knew that one good month is not necessarily going to create a sustainable business over time.
Yeah.
That I had to figure out, how do I create consistency over time in my business? So getting really smart about money moves, having a money coach and somebody who's supporting you and looking at your money and in how you move your money. But let me tell you, the most powerful work out of all of this was the identity being transformation work, because I can see how people easily lose money, how they make $1 million and then they can't sustain it because they don't know. Once you have money, you have to learn how to manage it. And that becomes a part.
Mhm.
That becomes a job by
Mhm.
itself, is investments. Where do you put it? How do you not give it all to Uncle Sam in your taxes, right? Should you be an S corp? Should you be a C corp? Should you be an, like, all of that in taxes? I had to learn a lot of that world, and I still struggle with a lot of that. I'm what I call myself like a baby in the world of investments and money management and all that. But I'm learning. I'm learning. So those are the things that I did. On the strategy side, I really learned how to scale. How do you scale a program? I used to work only one-on-one. I was a one-on-one coach for like 12 years. The first 12 years of my business, all I did was one-on-one coaching. And when I shifted into group coaching is when I scaled all of my businesses. Yeah, where I was able to scale my mastermind. I was able to scale Inspired Action. Inspired Action at one point had 75 members in it, close to 80. So it's grown. It had grown. Now it's shrunk a little bit back, but that's also due to everything we're going through. Uh, Learning to do that, learning to take the business from 5 clients, 2 clients, 10 clients to a bigger number and still serving everyone, right? Now, listen, as I say all of this, one thing I want you to know, Bessy, and the people listening, is I've made tons of mistakes also. And that there are a lot of people out there that are like, she sucks. She's just going to take your money. She's not a real coach. That's the reality of scaling
Yeah.
and bigger, is that you have more people looking at you and people who are like giving you their opinions about what you're good at and what you're not good at and the value they got or not. But one of the most powerful things that my coach told me many years ago, one of my coaches, because I have lots of coaches and mentors also, this is like 20 years of investment in coaching. But guys, this version of me, I've invested probably $500,000, $500,000 in coaches and coaching
Yeah.
for the last 10, 15 years, but it's so worth it. One of the things that my coach always told me is, listen, Wendy, in a room of 100 people, 30 people are going to love you. They're going to think you're the best thing. They're going to totally get you. They're going to be like, I'm signing up for her thing, or she's amazing. And then 30 people are going to hate you. 30 people are going to be like, yeah, no, not for me. They're not going to vibe with you. They're not going to like how quickly you speak. They're not going to like whatever, right? Whatever it is. And it's really that middle group of about 40 people that are left. Those are the people that you're moving, that you're working with, that you're inspiring, that you're enrolling, that you're wanting to affect change in. And that's everybody. They're like, anybody could stand at the top of the stage and have that same reality with 100 people. Once I started to really internalize that, I was like, oh, so the 30% that don't like me, they were never going to like me anyway. So
Mhm.
It's okay. It's okay. Not everyone's going to like me. Yeah. That's been a big lesson in this process.
You talk about being work.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that means. So what does that mean?
Right.
That
Right.
is, I mean, I will always be the one to say I do not want to ever be the smartest person in the room because then I've completely stunt myself in potential growth. And so that's why I love to have these conversations. I love to be able to bring guests because I'm always learning just like the next person. And I will tell you, I sat there and was trying to figure out what that even means in general. And then trying to, because usually I'll be like, okay, generalization, underneath the description of a dictionary, this is what it means. And then I break it down to what is that? How does that apply to me? This one, I was like, I'm not even going to bother.
Oh my
So
God. I love this,
go ahead
Bessie.
and
I
tell
love
me,
this.
please. What
I
is
love this
being work?
because, yes, what is being work? I love this because this is why I've come into your life and into your listeners' lives, because this is the work of my life. And this is the missing piece to why there's not more Latinas doing the work that we're doing or living their best life, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
So being work is about your relationship with you. It's what I call the vertical. It's what's happening internally inside of you. It's your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, especially your beliefs about yourself, but also your beliefs about things like money and family and time, right? It's about your intentions and it's about your frequency of vibration. It's a combination of all five of them. You can enter through any of the doors. That's why I include thoughts, because some people spend more time in their head, but we are way more than our thoughts, and our thoughts are lying to us a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So we got to keep that on track. What's beautiful about who you're being. So who you're being is a combination of all of that, right? It's a combination of what you're thinking most of the day, what you're feeling most of the day, the beliefs you have, the intentions you set forth, and your frequency of vibration. Frequency of vibration is a tricky one because people are like, that's too woo-woo for me. Unless like they're a Reiki healer or like all the healers get that part. They're like, oh, I
Yeah.
understand vibration. But a lot of the career, corporate America Latinas are like, what are you talking about, this energy thing? We're all energy. We're all putting
Yeah.
out energy. People can feel it all the time. Your vibration of energy, the frequency at which you're vibrating at, feelings have different vibrational hertz, like you can measure it, right? So that's what I mean by vibration. But you can enter through any of these. You can start with your thoughts. You can start with your feelings. You could start with your beliefs, whatever it is that you want to start with. The beauty of it is that we're living in a very chaotic world right now. Circumstances are
Mhm.
changing every second by the day, right? You just watch the news and every hour by the hour, it's like
Mhm.
chaos. I mean, we're literally in the middle of a war right now, right? And we're like, what the hell? Um, Therefore, what's happening, what I call the horizontal, which is the world we're living in, it's everything outside of you. It's where your to-do list lives. It's where your car payment, where all the circumstances, getting the kids to school, all the things that we have to work on, right? The things outside of us. Those are things that we don't necessarily have control over. But what you always have control over is who you're being. You can always control
Mhm.
the thoughts you pick, the feelings you choose to feel,
Mhm.
beliefs you have. You can always pick your intention every morning. You can pick that. You have 100% control over your intention. You have 100% control over your frequency of vibration, over the energy that you're putting out. And the
Mhm.
more time you spend learning that, like, oh, how can I pick a thought that will serve me today the way I pick an apple off a tree? Woo, that's the work. It sounds simple. That's being work. It sounds simple, but it's actually a practice. It first
Mhm.
requires you to shift the way you think, right?
Mhm.
Most people think this thing called the horizontal is the world, like is your reality, right?
Mm-mm.
And this other thing called the vertical that is actually your reality. It's coming from inside. It's an inward job, inside out, versus life is happening to me. It's no, I am happening to life. My thoughts, my feelings, what I want, my intentions, that's what creates my reality. And so the more you can work on that, right? And this has been proven now, through studies in science. I just did a podcast episode on transformation in science and how science has proven transformational work through studies on like mirror neurons, studies on the quantum field and how energy works in the quantum field. So this has
Mhm.
all been studied. It's not like manifestation work. I don't necessarily call myself like a manifestation coach. Being work is really about your relationship with you. And at the end of the day, We are all human beings,
Yeah.
not human doings. Yeah. Does that
Right.
explain being work? Is that more understanding?
Everything you just said, I'm already doing. So
Yes,
I guess I
yes,
just didn't have a word for it.
yes, yes.
So yeah, everything you said, I've been doing all of those. And I've had those types of conversations. I just, like I said, I've never put an actual title attachment to it because I have learned that a lot of the people that I have had the opportunity to have connections with, or to speak with, or to just, learn a little bit about, um, I am teaching them or sharing with them, not teaching them, sharing with them one of those.
Yeah,
And then, but then for me, I break it down to like something that's digestible. Like you were talking about about energy, and most of the people that are more in that space, and that spirituality space and energetic space, like the Reiki healers and stuff like that, understand that more versus if you were talking to somebody who's never been exposed to any of those things, would probably approach you and say that is more of your thing. Because I had that conversation with my husband. He's like, I know that that's kind of like your thing. And I said, please explain, what does that mean? He goes, "Well, it's your thing, like, you're into those things." And I said, "Actually, I'm not into anything, I'm learning." And part of the learning is understanding that all of this is science, physics, the
it is.
law of attraction. Like, I can go, and I said, and coming from somebody who sucked at science and math in grade school,
Yeah.
ironically, the life brought it to me in a different version.
Isn't it crazy? Yeah. Yeah, well,
It
20 years ago, people thought this was woo-woo, and it was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
this is just some crazy thing, it's not real," and
Mhm.
now every single science, journal out there, like Psychology Today and all that, is backing up what transformational coaches and gurus have been saying for years, which, by the way, our ancestors did this. Our
Oh, yeah,
ancestors practiced this.
absolutely.
So this is not new stuff. It's just we're coming back around because of the time that we're in right now with the evolution of but
Right,
yes,
and the narrative is also changing. I mean,
the
we're
narrative is
taking back
changing.
what the original narrative has always been said, and we're also pulling apart on what does fear actually mean and what does fear actually look like. Now, fear looks like an action more than a feeling. So, yeah, no, that's why when as you were saying this, I'm like, okay, so I just didn't have a word for it, but that's exactly what
Yeah,
she's
now you
saying.
have a word.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I created this model around being, and this all came from when I first learned something, a philosophy in life called be, do, have, right? Which is
Yeah,
how I function in my life, which is we have a have so that we want, something we want to have, like a result or a goal. Let's say we want to have, a new car or whatever, or something physical that we want to manifest in the world. And then when we ask ourselves, okay, how am I going to get that? The brain usually goes to the doing, right? How do I do the work that I need to do to buy the car? And be do have says, no, 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 hold on. Everything starts with you first, with your thoughts, your feelings,
yeah,
beliefs. So let's start with who you need to be first. Who do you need to be in your way of being? Maybe you
yeah.
need to be focused. Maybe you need to be committed to getting the car, right? These are different ways of being. Or maybe you need to be diligent. These are different ways of being. Whatever that being is, you be that first energetically, you tap into that
Mhm.
version of you. It feels like just hitting an internal button of like, "Okay, I'm gonna be focused Wendy." And then I tap into focus Wendy, and then I go do the thing that I need to do in order to have the car that I wanna buy, right? For example. So that's how being work functions in our day-to-day life. It starts with you first, which gives you actually more control over your life and recenters you back into, "Oh, the power comes from me." Not from the economy, not from the interest rates, not from all these other things that are outside of me. It actually comes from me. And for brown women, it comes from me and the millions of ancestors that are standing behind me. Ah, that
So
alone.
how would you so how would you I'm gonna shift just a little bit because I do feel like this is important to talk, maybe on a future podcast, even more diving into maybe a conversation with you and maybe some other group of Latinas in this particular space. But very, uh, some short clip. How would you present the work being with the work that you are currently doing with navigating the circumstances of all the shifts that are happening? And what I mean by the shifts happening is the direct impact to Latina, our our demographics and our culture. Um, and I say this because for anybody that's not following you on social media and stuff like that, you've been a huge advocate. You've been in a couple of campaigns. Um, one including, Root and Wings, where you're creating content for immigrant rights. How do you see the work being to take place in that specific area?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for that question. Listen, let's just call it out. Our communities are under attack 100%. This is not normal times. And yes, we've been under attack before, we've been under attack a lot. But the
Mhm,
amount of terror that we're experiencing now in our communities is huge, is huge. So for me, I've always felt a strong need to be an advocate and to use my privilege, right? I have a privilege being an entrepreneur, for example, that doesn't have tons of contracts with a lot of corporations. I don't have to sign NDAs. I don't have to stay quiet. I don't have to listen to somebody else telling me what I can say. I've always felt a need to advocate and actually be a voice for my community to actually tell people, especially other people in privileged positions. One, you can't look away right now. Right now is not the time to look away. It's a time to actually face what's happening and say something, voice something, do something, right? Get involved in some way. Yeah. But everything comes down to, or back to, everything comes back to, it starts from what is happening internally in you. What do you really believe? What do you feel in your heart is the right thing for you to be doing during this time? Where are you choosing from? Are you being fearful and choosing from fear? Or are you being courageous? Are you being connected, even connected to community right now? Everything starts with who you're being first. So that's how I can connect it. Because if we just move into doingness, right, which is what a lot of people do, they're like action, action, action. What I have experienced and witnessed in communities is the exhaustion of
mhm.
activists, the exhaustion of people fighting on the front lines, let's say. And my heart goes out to all of these people because we need them. We do need people. We need people on the front lines. We need people standing in the back. We need people standing with the, ¿cómo se llama? Megaphones yelling. We need everybody. We need social workers. We need teachers. We need moms. We need dads. We need everybody to get involved during this time to do their part. And your part might be making sandwiches at your house to give to immigrant families, right? Your part might be donating $5 a month to one of the organizations like Al Otro Lado that's helping immigrants, at the border, for example. Whatever it is, we each have our own part. But if we just focus on action, 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 eventually we get exhausted. One of the other
Mhm.
things about being work and how it ties to energy and how we keep up our energy during times like this is being, yes, it's about your relationship with yourself, but it's also connected to the quantum field. It's also about connecting to something that is bigger than us, that is surrounding us all the time, right? I call it source energy. Some people call it God. Some people call it the universe. Some people call it their higher self or their future self, whatever that is. So when you're really connected to being work and when you practice it, and this is what I do in my coaching programs is we practice it on a regular basis. When you practice it, you're plugging into like a battery that's bigger. You get what I'm saying? Or plugging into
Mhm.
electricity that's always available to you. Electricity is always available. You can plug into it. So it doesn't feel like it's just you. You're just
Yeah.
one little, way in which you're one individual, unique matter in the universe in which the energy is coming through and it's coming through you. When we do that, when we plug into that immense energy, then we don't get exhausted. We don't feel as guilty for not being able to do everything, right?
Yeah.
We can understand that even our thoughts can shift the world. So even if we're just
Yeah.
sitting meditating, using our thoughts to help energetically send love to people, for example, that has an impact. So that's how I tie being work with activist work. It's always being work underneath, always. And maybe the hat that I'm wearing sometimes is activist hat. Other times I'm wearing the coach hat. And yeah, but it has been controversial. Listen, there's a lot of people that are like, I don't want to work with you because you talk too much about politics or you're not neutral, which, one of the things in coaching is that we're neutral. We don't
Yeah.
steer the client towards the right or the left. We're just like asking the questions and whatever opens up
Yeah.
the client. Yeah. Yeah. And in my coaching practices, I am still neutral. When I'm actually practicing coaching, when I have my coach hat on, I'm
Yeah.
neutral. But I'm also now at a place in my life where, and in my business where I believe that my core value of social justice is tied directly to my ability to coach.
Yeah,
And
and I
tied,
think it's also has to do with what clients you work with as
yep,
well,
yeah,
because you're still a being. I think you're the vessel, but the message is the work that you do, but you're still a vessel. So the vessel is still has to. I mean, it's not like you can change the roots of a tree every single time. It doesn't. So the roots of a tree don't change for every season. It's just the external things you see above that change every season.
that's
And
right.
I think that's how people tend to like not understand that, I guess, in a way. Or again, I think it's one of those when you're not looking for it, you're not gonna find certain things. I think we're in a place now where those that are not fully in awareness, because I truly believe that that's sometimes what it is that they're not aware because it's never affected their environment or their
Correct.
upbringing. But now the curiosity is starting to defeat the comfort zone. It's, oh, this is what I was told, but now it's like you're an adult and you choose not to. Um, and so that's okay, but at the same time, eventually life's gonna show you that you're gonna have to make a choice about something. But again, it goes back to but you are again, that even that choice is part of your being.
Correct.
It's
It's your
it
values are part of your being. It's your thoughts, your beliefs. Your
Mhm.
beliefs are directly tied to your values, to what you value and what you see as possible. So yes, it all stems back to your beliefs, which is tied to your identity, which is tied to being work. Everything starts there. This is what I tell people. What's hard though is how do you quantify that? How do you measure that? How do you like
Yeah,
improve that?
yeah,
How do you do that when people ask me all the time, how do you do being work? And I'm like, come into my coaching practices and you'll see how we practice it. It's done through a series of questions, but there's also a lot of stillness, especially at my retreats. We do a lot of stillness where we're not
yeah,
doing the craziness of life.
yeah.
We're sitting down and we actually start to see each other for who we really are. It's actually a beautiful thing. It's a lot easier once you can surrender into, okay, what's the feeling I want to be in today? What's the thought I want to be in today? Yeah. Once you can navigate that world. And it's important to note that you can choose your thoughts and your feelings, and also they will come. Your feelings will come, and that it's okay to feel exactly what you're feeling, no matter what, right? So I'm not saying don't feel angry and choose joy every day. No, you can feel anger. Anger is a great tool, in fact, to use to move yourself forward. It's equivalent to passion in my eyes. I see anger as same thing as passion. It means I care about something deeply.
Yeah,
So I just want to name that because I think people sometimes think, oh, you're just going to choose happiness every day and that's it. No, life is not always going to be happy or easy or calm. But what
yeah.
you will start to find is like a centeredness of yourself, like a belief in yourself, a maturity of understanding what's really important and what do I really control in these moments. Yeah.
For any heifer that's listening right now who's ready to dive into that being work, what's one thing that you would advise them to be able to move forward on that?
Yeah, I would advise them to ask themselves the question. There's two questions I would say. One question that's really easy to think about and to ask yourself is what's the main thought I think about myself most of the day? When I think about myself, what's the main thought I'm in most of the day? Most of us aren't even aware of it. It's in our subconscious. But the moment we ask the question, we can start to think about what's the main thought I think about myself most of the day. And something starts to open up. And if nothing opens up, that's okay too. Just keep asking the question, keep asking the question. So, what we're starting to do when we do that is we're starting to bring the thoughts to the forefront of your mind. And then we're also starting to separate you from your thoughts. You are not your thoughts. Your thoughts are a tool that you can use. So you start to see the distinction. And that's step one in, oh crap, I'm not my thoughts. No, you're something else, something much more bigger and much more beautiful than even your thoughts, right? But that's a good first question. The second question that has more to do with like once you understand a little bit more about being work is, who do I need to be today to get the result I want?
Mm.
Who do I need? So before I walk into a podcast like today, a podcast interview or a job interview or with a client or a meeting, anytime before I walk into anything, I always ask myself, who do I need to be during this interview, call, meeting, today? And there are days where I need to be more centered. There are days where I need to be more patient. There are days where I need to be more assertive. There are days where I need to be more calm. So there are moments, right, where I have to tap into. So just asking yourself, who do I need to be in this next hour to get the result that I want? And seeing what comes up. Because we didn't talk much about this, but maybe next time, you actually have three brains, not just your cognitive brain. You have a heart brain and an intuition brain. And being work lives more in your heart brain and in your intuition brain than in your cognitive brain. But it's the alignment of all three that actually creates transformation. And so when we ask these questions, we start to tap into our intuitive brain and our heart brain, these other brains that exist in our body that we don't even pay attention to. We don't really tap into much. And that being work helps you tap into that. And then from that comes all the results, right? Yeah. So those are two powerful questions that your audience can start to ask themselves.
So you've taken us through the journey from your roots to having that moment where you're just like, on paper, I have a perfect life. I have a great life. I'm meeting all of the American dream expectations, but I'm just not feeling that reality, into how you've evolved into the being work. What is that one thing that you would want the audience to walk away with?
That everything starts with you, and that investing in your relationship with yourself will always pay off. You don't need more information. You don't need another book or another course on how to do things. You need to sit still with yourself, and either with yourself or with somebody who can guide you, like a coach, you need to start digging in deep about your relationship with you. Are you in integrity with what you believe? What do you really feel about the people around you, your relationships, the money in your bank account? Those conversations, that's what will start to open up an identity shift in you, a reality check, a come to Jesus
Right.
with yourself. Yeah. You don't need more information. You need to
You just need to get to know yourself better.
get to know yourself better and listen to that inner voice that then has you trust yourself. So I think the takeaway is, invest in building a more profound relationship with yourself, because you are what's creating everything around you. That's the start of hitting any goal that you want to hit in life. It's
Mhm.
not the interview skills, the resume. It's not the public speaking ability. It's not, I mean, those are important and we need strategy and we need to build skills. But if the wiring isn't right on the inside, none of that will work.
Right. Yeah, it'll all fly flat. So I always end the my inter my episodes with one question. What does being a Hefa mean to you in this season of your life?
Woo! Being a Hefa means to me in this season, trusting myself. Yeah.
Mm,
Listening to my inner compass more than listening to everybody outside of me. Listening to what's coming through me. So I'm actually in a stage now, there's 4 stages of transformation. There's, um, life is happening to me, where we're kind of a victim to life. There's I'm
yeah.
happening to life, and there's life is happening through me, which is stage 3, which is what I feel now. Things are coming through me that's not even me
Yeah.
anymore. It's not me leading it. It's, I get an idea or something, and I know it's coming from this quantum field, and it's moving through me, right? Yeah. And then, step 4 is I am one with all the energy. Like, there's nothing even separating me from the energy of the quantum field. We're just all connected to it. Woo, I have moments of that. I have moments where I have experienced that. That is profound. We'll have to talk about that at some point because it's freaking powerful. But I'm in more of stage 3 right now. So in this stage of my life, Hefa means trusting myself and letting it come through me, letting the insights, the inspiration come through my being.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Wendy. Like I said, I mean, these are the types of things that we can go on, and I had so many more other questions, but I know that that just means there's gonna have to be a part 2 here, so or we'll formulate it to be able to happen somehow, some way, even if it's not through a podcast episode. But Jefas, I hope that you were able to walk away with something today. I know I did. Sometimes it's a little bit of a reminder through the voices of others that are actually out there doing the thing. So truly excited for you all to be able to go back, rewatch this. I think this is one of those episodes that you're going to want to go back and listen to again
Right?
as many times as you need. There was a lot of nuggets. I know I didn't take notes, but I absorbed all of it. I held space for it, and I hope that you did too today. So remember, we're here every week for you, whether it's on your favorite podcast platform or on the YouTube channel. Let us know what kind of other guests would you like to be able to have us interview, send us recommendations, all the things. We cannot wait to be able to share more jefas that are out there doing big jefa things in our communities. And until next time, jefitas, nos vemos pronto. Hasta la próxima.
Thank you.